What happened to Madrid today? There were huge stretches of this match where it almost felt like they didn't want to be there.
Well, what happened is for Athletic Bilbao, this became an important competition, whereas for Real Madrid, at times, they look disinterested, certainly in the first half. And then when you are disinterested, even if you don't mean to be so, you start making silly mistakes. And in the case of Lucas Vazquez, who has been very good for this team and very consistent for Zinedine Zidane, tonight was a difficult match, and that's an understatement. His turnover leads to the first goal. He catches the team absolutely completely stretched and out of position. When you turn the ball over like that and everybody's stretched and trying to make the field wider, that means that the spaces in between the defenders are much bigger, and that's why Raul Garcia popped in and scored the first goal. And then worse than that, I suppose, is the fact that he doubles down on the mistake and then takes down a player for a penalty kick. Raul Garcia scores that one as well. So a tough match for Lucas Vazquez, but it's not the only player that had a tough match. Eden Hazard, my goodness, the struggles for this guy are real. And we are going to focus on him simply because of the expectation that there is an Eden Hazard at some point becoming a difference maker for this team. And it's just not happening. And if you were ever to picture a guy that is lacking confidence, a player of the level of Eden Hazard and lacking confidence, go to the 28th minute of this game where there is a ball that is played in behind. Good movement of the ball by Eden Hazard. He's now through on goal. There's a direct path for him to go towards goal. The closest defender to him is maybe 5 yards away. He never takes a touch towards goal. Takes a touch to the outside and then cuts the ball back to no one in particular. And you sense this guy right now does not believe in his ability. And when you see that from Eden Hazard, that's the part that is really concerning, because it's no longer about fitness, it's no longer about trusting his body. It's now about the fact that he doesn't quite trust himself as a player. That needs to change.
And Jules, if there was ever a match where Real Madrid needed Hazard, needed somebody to make something happen to break through, this was in. It's not for a shortage of opportunities from Zidane. Hazard keeps getting these starts and yet no production.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I can see why. And as he explained after the game, Zidane about Hazard saying, we have to be patient. He's lost confidence. That will come back with a goal and assist. The assist almost came in that second half. That was a great move for Asensio, who hit the post. And it was a good pass, a good cross, good cut back from Hazard. But there's something missing clearly there. But again, I think a bit like against Osasuna, when we debriefed the game with Ale, we have to talk about Zidane's choices and tactical choices, and in terms of personnel, I don't understand why you play the same team again when you've been so average against Osasuna a few days ago. I don't understand why there's not a few changes there. At least at the start of the game, he changed Varane and Nacho at half-time, but this will be it. Lucas Vazquez, I'm sorry, but a club like Real Madrid should never have a right winger as a backup right back. This should not happen. Not in a club like this. You let Hakimi go because you didn't really believe in him, especially defensively, no problem. But you need a backup there for Carvajal. You can't have Lucas Vazquez, who's a right winger and has always played right winger, to play in a right back. He can cover for one game or two maybe, but when it's for too long, there's a problem there, and we've seen that this season. And again, why is Karim Benzema coming off? I'm sorry, there's 2 minutes to go in normal time, plus, as we saw, 6 minutes of added time. Why are you taking him off? Why? You play in the Copa del Rey next game. You don't need to rest him for anything. Leave him until the end. He was your most threatening player, and he just scored a goal as well. So there's a lot of things that I'm really struggling to understand from Zidane tonight.
Ale, you agree with Jules? How much of this is on the manager?
The part in which he repeats the starting 11, that's difficult to explain from Zidane's perspective, to be honest with you. I can't quite defend that. And I think one of the changes that he made, even within having the same player personnel, is that he started Hazard in a more central position rather than coming from a wider area. Well, that's catering to the fact that Eden Hazard doesn't want any duels, is not taking advantage of 1v1 situations, so he's just going to go inside and combine. But when he goes inside, he gets lost. Marco Asensio became the player that was most dangerous and most likely to hurt Athletic Bilbao in the second half. And where I totally agree with Julien is the fact that if you were picturing that somebody was going to score a goal for Real Madrid late, it's either a header by Sergio Ramos, which he almost did, or something that falls to Karim Benzema. Everybody else, you don't really trust that they're going to be able to score that big goal. And so when Mariano steps on the field and the camera takes a while to kind of picture or give us a picture as to who's coming off, and then you see that it's Benzema that's coming off, my first reaction is, well, he must be injured. There must be something wrong physically with him, because otherwise this doesn't make any sense. You leave that guy out there and you trust that he's going to do something special for you, because there's nobody else that you can trust. Who are you going to lean on? Are you telling me that Vinicius is going to be the guy who's going to score the big goal? I don't think so. Marco Asensio was active, but he hit the post here, the crossbar there. Is he going to score the big goal? I don't think so. Where's it going to come from if not from Karim Benzema and if not from Sergio Ramos? That's a question that we've asked time after time after time. And more times than not, Benzema has come through. More times than not, Sergio Ramos has come through. But when they're not the ones scoring the goals, I don't know where it's coming from.
Jules, why is it that this team always seems to step up when their back's against the wall, but not when it's not that way?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was very much sort of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Again, to now, we've seen that often this season. Sometimes, usually they start really well and then they sort of fade away, or they kind of want to control the game and some stop playing, like we saw against Elche, for example. It's really strange. I don't know if they can't keep the same intensity for all 90 minutes. If Ali is right, maybe tonight they started so poorly because they were not really into it, which again, I'm not sure is forgivable for a team like Real Madrid, even if it's only the Super Cup. I don't know, but there's clearly something there that Zidane and the players have to rectify, because when you come to much bigger games later in the season, in the Champions League and in that title race with Atleti, you will need to be able to rectify that, because otherwise you'll have more games like tonight where you're so bad in the first half that you can't come back into the game in the second half, even if you play much better.
Ale, they're not a consistent enough team, are they, to challenge Atleti at this point?
And I thought that they would be. I thought after they beat Atletico Madrid, and in the manner in which they beat Atletico Madrid, I have come on the show and said, you know what? I feel like this Real Madrid can catch Atletico Madrid and can get ahead of them as well. There was a certain show of strength, of personality there against Atletico Madrid that we didn't see from Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid actually backed off from Real Madrid, backed off from the fight. And that, I thought, okay, this is the moment in which Real Madrid really finds this consistency. And they did for a couple of weeks. But then we've gone back to what you just alluded to, and it's the fact that there are games in which they show up and it's kind of like, you know what, guys, not today, not for us, not right now, not feeling it, don't really think so. And you can't have that when you've been trailing the whole year to Atletico Madrid. You have to be at your very best, or at the very least make sure that you get 3 points at a time in La Liga competition, so that you're putting pressure on Atletico Madrid, because the one time that you put pressure on Atletico Madrid took a step back, and that was in the head-to-head matchup. I thought there would be consistency, and there hasn't been. That's disappointing from a player's perspective, but it's also disappointing from a coaching perspective as well.
Other news for Real Madrid, of course, they'll see Luka Jovic head on a rest of season loan back to Eintracht Frankfurt. Jules, this after the club paid 60 million euros for him. In honor of Luka Jovic, we had you build your worst Real Madrid transfers of all time. Where does Jovic fit into this list?
Well, it's quite high up because, you know, it might not all be his fault and his responsibility, and there might be a few factors why he flopped so much at Real Madrid, but he has to be right up there with the Jonathan Woodgate, with the Julien Faubert, with the Royston Drenthe. I mean, I picked 5 first, and then we decided to go to 10. I could have gone to 15 easily. There's some on the list that are more known than others, but he has to be there, and it's a shame because he was so good with Frankfurt when they had that really good season in the league and in the Europa League. Before the move, he was wanted by loads of clubs. He decided to go to Real Madrid, and I think in many ways we all saw, okay, this is a different profile to Karim Benzema. This can work. And again, whether it's on him, a bit on Zidane, a bit on the club, the environment, the expectation, the pressure, I'm not sure why, but what's for sure is that he was a big flop, yeah.
Ale, no Hazard, no James, no Kaká on Jules' list. Did he miss anybody else?
How about Somanelka? He wasn't great for Real Madrid. And here's another name of a player who's still around, and that is Danilo. Danilo, who continues to go on big team after big team after big team, and it's Real Madrid, and it's Manchester City, and it's Juventus. And you're thinking, boy, I like to be his agent because this guy's selling smoke. This guy, whatever he's selling, they're buying. In terms of Anelka, a disappointment. And in terms of Kaká, I think you say the biggest perhaps transfer bust because of the expectation that there was of Kaká coming to Real Madrid and what he had been with Milan, the best player in the world. Never, because of injuries and other circumstances, never nowhere near that with Real Madrid.
I got to say, Jules, I was surprised you left Kaká off that list.
I know. To be fair, I did think about long. Same with James and same with Anelka. I mean, I feel Anelka, in many ways, won you that Champions League, and just for that, he doesn't deserve to be on that list. James had, especially one amazing season where him and Cristiano were just outstanding together, one of the most lethal partnership in Europe that year. And for Kaká, yeah, you're right. There's a good case for him to be on that list, although those are really, I mean, they were really terrible. Kaká had his moments with Real Madrid and the Real Madrid shirt, but you're right, the expectations were so high for what he brought. The difference is quite big, and maybe just for that, he could have been on that list.
Jules, on today's performance alone, why isn't Eden Hazard on that list?
Because, and again, we discussed that before the show, I understand everything, and I'm a bit biased because I like the guy and a lot, and I know him, and he's a great guy, and I really believe he's an incredible talent. However, it's not his fault if he has spent 80% of his time at Real Madrid injured. That's not Hazard. That's not his fault, and I think it's really harsh and hard to judge someone, especially in that matter of like big flops and big failures, and players who were terrible for the club when he spent most of the time injured, when it was not his fault. So that's why he's not on there. If he comes back and plays injury-free for a whole year and he's more like we saw today, or like against Osasuna, then okay, we can talk again. But right now, after all that injured time, I think it's really unfair to put him on that list.
Ale, what do you think about
just a reminder.
Jules taking care of his buddy Eden?
Just a reminder. This injury situation from Eden Hazard that Julien says is not his fault started with him coming to Real Madrid out of shape. It came with him coming to Real Madrid with his body not taken care of. So the foundation was never there for Eden Hazard to be fully fit. And that's on him, on the professional, on the guy that is supposed to go on this big transfer. The first moment you show up there, you show up flying, because that's what is expected of you. He wasn't fit to begin with, and then everything has followed. But those cracks in the foundation, they came from Eden Hazard. They didn't come from anybody else.
Jules, last word?
But at Chelsea, it was the same for every summer at Chelsea, and he never got the degree of injury that he got at Real Madrid. And by the way, the big injury is Thomas Meunier against PSG, who almost broke his ankle. That's not his fault, or if he had too many chips in the summer when he was back home in Belgium.
All right,
Okay.
Jen.
All right. So are you telling me, Julien, that and this is simply from experience, when you come into camp and you're ready to go and your body's ready, you trust yourself to be able to do your job. Ahead of that injury that you just mentioned, it's not like Eden Hazard was fine. It's not like he was playing great. It's not like he wasn't heavily criticized. He was already on the wrong path. And that's my point. You go to Real Madrid, you get on the right path. You have to do that from the very beginning. If you go down the wrong path and then everything happens afterwards, it's something that you brought on yourself. Yes, there's been some misfortune, but he started on the wrong path, and that's on him.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.